Good evening and welcome to the spring edition of the Roanoke Division Town Hall. And greetings from me. I'm your host this evening, Bill Marine, N2COP. I am Vice Director for the Roanoke Division. We have a star-studded lineup tonight, and for the next 60 minutes, we're going to give you items that will affect all of amateur radio in the Mid-Atlantic region, or as we like to say here, in the Roanoke Division, the division within ARL that comprises of 4 states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. We have our regular host tonight, myself, and I'll introduce them in a second. And later in the show, we have 2 special guests. But we'll first introduce the round robin of folks on our panel tonight that you've met before. It's your ARL elected officials. First up, let's bring in Dr. Jim Boner, N2ZZ, the director of the Roanoke Division. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Bill, and best of the evening from Aiken, South Carolina.
Thank you. And those who are seeing Dr. Jim for the first time, Jim is a practicing physician in the Palmetto State, and he has been our division director since 2015. Let's go down the list and meet your 4 section managers in the Roanoke Division. First, let's bring in North Carolina section manager, Marv Hoffman, WA4NC. Marv, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Bill, and to each of the other panelists, and most importantly, good evening to our audience.
Thank you very much, Marv. Let's meet from West Virginia, the Mountaineer State, a proud mountaineer himself, Section Manager Dan Ringer, K8WV. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Bill. Good evening, Bill, and to all of you out there who are watching. And we welcome you most graciously. It's hard to get hands to do anything at one time, and we've got a bunch of you with us this evening, and we're going to enjoy that.
All right. Thank you, Dan. And now joining us from the Old Dominion State, Virginia Section Manager Jack Smith, KE4LWT. Good evening, Jack.
Good evening, everyone, from beautiful downtown Ruckersville, Virginia. And glad to see everybody online here on the chat.
Thanks very much, Jack. And finally, last but by no means least, our South Carolina section manager, coming to us from the Palmetto State, John Gendron, WJ4Z. Good evening, John.
Did you change my call sign?
What did I say?
You said WJ4Z. Anyway,
did I? I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was like, hey, I got a new call sign.
This is the problem with live television.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody this evening, and let's have a good show.
Absolutely. And we will. We got some great topics and talented people. And John, before I throw it and introduce our first guest, as many of you know, the Roanoke Division Service Award is the highest honor in the division, and it's given to one ham every year who typifies and exemplifies the spirit of amateur radio in terms of helping, promoting, and being enthusiastic and having an influence on those around him or her. And John, we always award this 1 year in arrears. So you were last year's winner, the 2022 Roanoke Division Award winner, and well-deserved, I might add. But we're very fortunate tonight to have the most recent winner for 2023. It's McKenzie Denton, KO4GLN, coming to us from her home in Virginia. McKenzie, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
And it's a delight to not only meet you, but to hear of everything that you've done at your ripe young age to promote amateur radio, particularly among younger people. Tell us, how did you get involved in amateur radio yourself?
Well, I became involved back in 2020, which was right when school shut down and classes switched to online. I felt really isolated during lockdown, and I wanted to challenge myself to find a hobby that was unlike anything I've ever done before. My dad had some old Popular Mechanics magazines that he gave to me to read. And in one of those magazines, I found an article about astronaut Owen Garriott, who operated the world's first amateur radio station from space. And that article really sparked my interest, so I went out to the shed. I grabbed an old Radio Shack HTX 202 transceiver, and I tried to listen for the ISS. And when that didn't work, it sparked my curiosity a lot more. I ended up taking the amateur radio online course, and I took my technician exam with the Williamsburg Area Amateur Radio Club. The initial interaction that I had with the VE coordinator there at that session, who is now our president of the club, Carrie Hofford, NH2A. I had some good experiences with the other VEs there and the club members, and I was so impressed with all of them that I decided to join that club. And ever since I joined that club, it has done nothing but serve its entire community and fulfill its members' diverse needs. I was also shocked by the number of YLs that club had, which was due to our efforts from our then president, Toby Papa's KL0SS. And honestly, my success in ham radio is due to the support, mentoring, and encouragement from work. All of their community, they have done nothing but help me in all of this process. They continue to help me grow and achieve every day. And just for an example, I want to give a shout out to Dino Papas, KL0S, who has encouraged me to do, he encouraged me to do a write-up on a fox hunting antenna for our group's IO. And because of that, I now have 2 articles published in QST and OTA.
Well, for those with us tonight who may not know your background, you are currently, I hope I have this right, a sophomore at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yes.
You're studying as a pre-med major.
Yes.
You are also the ARRL Virginia Section Youth Coordinator.
Yes.
You are also an ARL Volunteer Examiner. And last but not least, if that were enough, you also hold an extra class license.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very admirable for somebody your age. Was that a big jump for you to go from technician to, I presume you went to general and then to extra?
Yes. It really was. When I took the technician test, I studied the technician and general manuals. I was unsure if I wanted to take the general on the same day, so I ended up waiting and I studied some more before taking it about 2 months later. The shift from general to extra was really difficult for me. I had a hard time wrapping my mind about a lot of different concepts, but I ended up using YouTube to help me out. And it took me about 6 months of hard studying to eventually obtain my license for the extra.
And what types of things are you undertaking as the youth coordinator for the ARL Virginia section?
Well, primarily, I like to focus on the Boy Scouts because there's so many things that we can do with them. And my goal for this year is to get max participation from amateur radio clubs, for JOTA especially, for amateur radio clubs, scouting, the Scouting Council, and the Boy Scout troops themselves. I recently did an event with the University of Scouting for the Tidewater Council, and it was amazing. There was about 400 to 500 Boy Scouts at ODU at my school, and I was tasked with setting up a demonstration or a couple tables with amateur radio related activities, and the amount of support that we got from those Boy Scouts was insane. You should have seen how many were racing over to, play with the Morse code station or get on HF radio and make some contacts. We even had some people from my club show up and get on the air, and it was a lot of fun. But we really want to focus on getting those Boy Scouts on the air. The more, the better. And that's really what I want to do for this year.
And interestingly, I've had a chance to look at the relationship between Boy Scouts of America and ARL and amateur radio goes way back. In fact, wireless communications was mentioned in the first Boy Scout handbook produced in 1910. So it's been a relationship that's gone on for many, many years. As somebody your age and level of interest, McKenzie, what do you think are the next areas that we and all of us in amateur radio should address to attract more youth into the hobby?
That's a great question. Thank you. I definitely think we should use social media as one of the main ways to get youth involved. There are a ton of youth groups on different social media sites like Instagram. TikTok is a huge one, and especially Discord. There are multiple little forums on Discord with a ton of people under the age of 25 who just connect with each other and encourage people to get into contests, and they try to teach each other new things. We spend a lot of time on those to it's kind of like an easy way to talk about amateur radio and organize events. Also, another thing I want to say is we should mentor the youth kindly and offer help in a friendly and open way. We need to be patient with the youth when they don't understand something right away. We also should talk to them about their careers. We should get to know what their future goals are and help them see how amateur radio can lead them into interesting jobs in science and also technology. We should do a better job at making the hobby welcoming and put an effort to make them feel like they belong in this hobby, because they do. And for the last thing, I really think that we should focus on the fun topics in this hobby. What's fun to us, like contesting, might not really be fun for them right off the bat, but we can kind of push them towards that at the end, when they get really immersed in this hobby. We should introduce youth to outdoor related activities like fox hunting. In my experience, the youth really love fox hunts and they want to do it more. I know for my club, they love fox hunts, and they were actually asking me about doing another one. So I have one set up for Easter for them in a couple weeks here. Fox hunting, DIY projects that would really seem cool to them. Kids love hands-on activities, so I think we should do more with hands-on activities.
I agreed. One of the things that I hear about as an ARL leader when clubs say, "Where are all the youth?" is that youth, because of their schedules and also because of lifestyle changes, don't necessarily want to attend, for example, a dinner meeting at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, or join a bunch of hands for breakfast at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. What types of ways do you think clubs could provide some outreach to youth to make it more accessible to them?
Well, we could find an hour that everybody would be free if they do want to do those lunches and dinners. Try to figure out when those kids are on their breaks. Like I said, use social media, use hashtags on social media, because that can actually put your posters or flyers out, hashtag amateur radio, hashtag ham radio. They can get more youth to see what's actually going on. And if it's a reasonable hour for the youth, then that can kind of bring people in, and just keep having those outdoor activities. Try to go out and find your local club, see if they have any youth there. Go to Boy Scout troops that are local and try to connect them with their local clubs. And invite them to your events like Field Day. Field Day is a huge one. We always see a bunch of young people at Field Day because they love outdoor activities.
In your experience, do you find that youth are willing to participate in nets? And I say that because so many youth have the entry-level license technician class, which emphasizes privileges in the VHF and UHF spectrum. Do you think nets are something of interest to younger people?
Absolutely, I do. But it comes up to the point where we have mic fright for younger people. I know when I was there, I was terrified to get on the net because I didn't want to mess up. I didn't know what to say, especially with how inexperienced I was. I think if we encourage the young people to get on the air, in a gentle manner and be like, hey, it's okay. We're all going to mess up sometimes, but we can push you in that direction to get more experience. You're never going to know unless you try it, right? And even if they don't like it, they can do other things in the hobby. But I definitely do think nets are a huge thing. In my experience with YONet, the Williamsburg Club has a YONet that comes on every Sunday night at 7. And it has really grown over the past few years that we have been doing it. More YLs are getting on the air, and it's such a beautiful thing to see.
I would agree. It's a very male-dominant hobby, and it's great to see YLs coming on in.
Right.
Tell us, what do you personally like to do in amateur radio? What are some of your particular interests?
I absolutely love contesting. Contesting is one of my favorite things in this hobby, and I really do enjoy working birds or getting on the air working satellites, because I've been able to make contact with an astronaut. Especially after wanting to do that. That was such a huge accomplishment for me to finally be able to talk to an astronaut on the ISS. And I've just been in love with making contacts with from satellites ever since then. But I have to say my number one thing is definitely contesting.
All right. And finally, from me, and then I'm going to open it up and see if our other panelists or any of our listeners have sent into any questions. What are your own career plans at this point?
My goal is to attend medical school and complete an emergency medicine residency.
Wonderful. We wish you nothing but the utmost in success.
Thank you.
Let me open up to the floor and see if any of our section managers or our producer, Brad Humphreys, AE4VJ, has gotten any questions from folks out in the field that may like to ask something of McKenzie.
No, McKenzie, this is John with South Carolina. There's been a push recently with some of the YouTube crowd and some of the Twitch crowd to move radio contesting or radio sport more towards the electronic gaming format, where people are streaming their contesting, or they're actually trying to set up contests where you bring the best of the best into an arena and have them contest. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea. I think that would get way more people into this hobby if they can relate amateur radio to their video games.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think the same thing. I don't know. There's so many good young contesters out there. I've been watching some of these guys that are running SO2R radio contests, and there's another one, S2BIC, I think it is, where they're running two radios at the same time, transmitting at the same time. It's absolutely insane. I don't know how they keep their concentration, but it'd be interesting to watch that live, I think.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So on top of that, do you find that most of the younger hams that you're dealing with, are they pretty big gamers also?
They definitely are.
Are they? Okay.
Yes.
That's a good question, Brad. And I've often wondered if we could design a contest that had a gaming theme for application in amateur radio, particularly geared towards technicians, VHF, UHF. McKenzie, in your opinion, would something that have a gaming component to it, do you think that would attract more youth?
Absolutely. I do. If we can find similarities to what they like, bring that into amateur radio, I think that would 100% bring more young people into this hobby.
There's actually a couple of websites now that are hosting poker games via FT8. So you make FT8 contacts, you upload your contacts, and depending on the distance, the better cards you get. And then you play for a certain amount of time, and you get the best hand you can, and whoever does that wins. I've seen that done, and I've seen chess played over FT8 as well. But I'm sure there's more exciting ways to do that, although poker's pretty fun.
Well, I mean, we could do it by modifying just like the multipliers and just how that works.
Yeah, that's true.
Be a way.
Yep. I see that Jim Lathan came in with a question for McKenzie. And McKenzie, are you involved in ARES or other amateur radio community services?
Yes, I am.
And is that a growth path? I see, for example, a lot of younger people, particularly in more rural settings, that help out with volunteer fire departments. Do you think there's an affinity there between those types of folks and amateur radio?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Is there anything you think in amateur radio we can do to make that more attractive in the public service sector, particularly in something like ARES for youth?
I think just promoting it more would really help. I really only see ARES promoted to amateur radio operators, of course, because that's, it's targeted toward amateur radio operators. But I think posting about it more on different social media sites, again, using those hashtags are powerful to get more attention. I know in my experience, that's how I've gotten more views and, attracted more people into this hobby. Just promotion is a huge thing. We want more people into this hobby.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions from our panelists for McKenzie? McKenzie, just so you know, the Dr. Boner, N2ZZ, Dr. Jim, and I will be traveling on field day to your home club, the Williamsburg Area Amateur Radio Society, and we plan to present your Roanoke Division Service Award plaque at field day at your home club.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Well, we're very excited, and we haven't met you personally, but we're looking forward to it. And thank you. First of all, congratulations on winning, but also thank you for being a wonderful spokesperson and ambassador for amateur radio.
Thank you for having me. I love to do this. It's amazing.
Okay, we wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank
night.
you, McKenzie.
Thank you. I think those of you on here will agree that McKenzie exemplifies the future of amateur radio and what we all hope to see. So McKenzie, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's move on because we have another person, a guest joining us tonight, and coincidentally, another YL. We have joining us tonight, and she's on the road, Nancy Torborg. KB2 TNR. Nancy is mobile tonight, and but more importantly, Nancy is the chairwoman of RARSfest, which is coming up a week from this Saturday, April 6th, at the North Carolina State Fairgrounds. RARSfest this year, coincidentally, is also the Roanoke Division Convention. And Nancy and her team have put a lot into place this year to make RARSfest better than ever. So Nancy, give us a little overview, if you would please, about what folks can expect this year at RARSfest.
And good evening. I'm broadcasting from Southside Community College in Alberta, Virginia, in their parking lot in the rain. What can you expect this year? We've done so many things to try to engage younger people and families. We've got in addition to like great forums that we always have, satellite demonstrations, we have robotics teams that come out and compete, because what better way to get a kid into radio than to say, see how they made that robot work? That's radio. Would you like to learn more about radio? We, of course, do VE testing like every other Hamfest does, but we also got some really cool vehicles that come out. One of the things, and fingers are crossed that we don't have a disaster this year, is the IEEE Move van. If anybody's familiar with that, that is a mobile ops communication center that is moved wherever communications and power is needed, and they're going to be demoing what that looks like when it's in operation, and that's going to be very exciting. We've got people that show what Helping Hams are doing. We've got trailers with their equipment that they bring out. We've got amazing dealers that come to us, ham radio outlet, chat radio, Wireman, and a bunch of other Tar Heel designs, antenna people, phase dock, maker people. But we're really big on having people that are makers, as well as like people that are in the more traditional aspects of radio. One of the things that my team and I are very cognizant is that the landscape, as McKenzie stated, of radio is changing. The reason a person would get into radio now is not the reason that they would have 60 years ago. As I like to tell people all the time, 60 years ago, when everybody was young, you could take your article from Popular Electronics and walk into a Radio Shack with whatever money you had on you and come out with some amazing parts and come up with your own design. Amateur radio is the original maker space. So we're really excited about bringing in some makers that make components. We've got a great packet radio demonstration that's going to be going on. It's not your dad's packet radio from the 80s. It's brand new. And again, it's a maker space. It's things that people put together with Raspberry Pis. And we're starting to build a network into Southern Virginia, but mostly in North Carolina.
Wow, that's a lot there. Now, you took over as chairman or chairwoman for the RARSfest, I think it was 3 years ago. RARSfest is, I think if I remember the motto, it is the largest indoor hamfest in North Carolina, but I think in the Mid-Atlantic region. How many folks do you have volunteering all together to make the Hamfest successful?
Well, that's one thing I want to make really very clear is that it takes a whole team. Like I'm just the figurehead. Normally I wear a tiara. I forgot it when I was packing. When I'm working and recruiting, it gets noticed. We've got amazing people. We've got a great guy that does our web pages to make sure that people have the most up-to-date information. Great logging of as people are doing tables, people that book our vendors, and all kinds of volunteers. I would say probably we have like well over 100 volunteers, between 100 and 150. And as I'm saying that, I want people to know that if your club is doing any sort of hamfest, tailgate, swap meet, straight up hamfest, please, please, please consider giving your time and your service to it. It doesn't take amazing skills. If you've ever run a PTA committee or any other service club, Elks or anything, any hamfest could use those skills, and it's important to keep all hamfests going. I know that we've seen several go by the wayside in the last couple of years, and that's not a win for RARS or any particular hamfest. That's a loss for the ham community, because a hamfest is so much more than just buying and selling. It's about people getting together, talking, sharing stories, sharing memories. It's a place for social. There's nothing at a hamfest that you can't buy on the internet. You could either get it new or on eBay, but you can't get the interpersonal interactions unless you're
Well,
at a hamfest.
two things I've noticed, Nancy, I think that contribute to RARS Fest being a largely recognized hamfest have been, first of all, you yourself and some members, I think you drag some members of your family with you, go to other hamfests to promote RARS Fest. But you've done a lot of those. And how does that help in terms with ticket sales and recognition?
Well, first of all, I have a T-shirt that I should be selling, as my OM is right here. He's my chauffeur, and he's my tech support, getting all his technology on the air. I made him a T-shirt that says, "I'd rather be doing yard work, but my wife keeps dragging me to these damn hamfests," and I'm pretty sure I could and should be selling that. I think that's really important to put a face on an event. As much as possible. I go out to Shelby. I've been out to Charlotte. I've gone to Stone Mountain in Georgia. This year I'll be down in Huntsville. I want people to know that there is actually humans behind whatever hamfest that they see advertising. And I'm also very, very active on Facebook, posting on Facebook and trying to get out in person to just as many club meetings as I can. I have a regular job. I'm an elementary school librarian, but if you're within a 2-hour drive of me, I will get to your club if it's an evening meeting. I cannot be one of those people that comes out for your lunchtime meetings, but if you meet in the evening, I will come to you and talk to you in person. I love doing that.
You've touched upon something I think that's a lot of interest and both intrigue and a puzzlement to many who run Hamfest, and that is how to effectively use social media to promote your Hamfest. I'm on Facebook, and I've seen all sorts of RARFest posts. What tips could you pass along to Hamfest committees who wish to promote their Hamfest more on social media?
Well, first of all, get a Facebook page. Make sure multiple people know who the admin is, because that can be a struggle if somebody leaves and you can't hold the control of the page. But put up interesting content. Sometimes I actually like using memes. I try not to overuse them, but I like to give people a little something fun and funny to make them stop. Useful information as much as possible. Heck, field day, you get extra points for having a Facebook page if your club has field day. So, why not be out there with your Hamfest? One of the things that I did when I took over RARS Fest is we were doing a physical mailing of over 10,000 flyers to the cost of several $1,000s. And there was no way of knowing the return of investment. Like, did people come to RARS Fest because they got the flyer, in spite of the flyer, because it stuck to their shoe in a parking lot, because their friend had it or they heard it on a net? I will tell you, getting out there on Facebook and using mailing lists, things like Constant Contact and MailChimp with targeted audiences, that really gets the message out with great photos and links that you can't possibly do with a physical piece of paper, like something that gets mailed. Good quality photos, so people know exactly what they're going to get.
Anything we've overlooked that you really would like to mention, either about having a successful Hamfest or especially about Rars Fest this year?
I've spent a lot of time telling people that we are the biggest hamfest that you've never heard of, and I am reaching out to you, Virginia and West Virginia and South Carolina and folks west of Charlotte. Come out and take a look. First of all, you can make it a weekend. The Canes were playing both Friday night and Sunday in town. They're having a dessert wars festival, which sounds delightful, and I think I might toddle over there. Raleigh's our capital, and there's so much great stuff to do. There's no reason why you can't bring the whole family out for the weekend. And if your club is like teetering on not having a ham fest because it hasn't been done in a while, you should. It's I won't say it's easy, but it's not as hard as you think. It does take work. It takes a whole team of people. One person cannot do it alone. But if you know a person that can do some web stuff or some social media stuff or has some contacts in the ham community, for selling things, get that team together. And I encourage people, follow me, the Rars Fest page on Facebook. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to talk to you and give you the confidence that you need to keep your club or your area's ham fest going.
Excellent. Well, I know that you're trying to get to see family tonight under rainy conditions. We wish you safe travels. And everybody mark your calendar now. It's only a week from this Saturday. It's on Saturday, April 6th, starting at, is it 8 a.m.?
It's at 8 a.m. and I just saw something pop up in the comments. Somebody said she needs to go to Orlando. I was there. I was in the swaps room for 3 days, and I was nervous, not because I'm nervous about talking to people. That left my husband unsupervised for 3 days at a ham fest and walking around money. So whenever I do an event like that, I'm going to Huntsville this year. It's always with a little trepidation. We always tend to come. I just want to make sure that there's room for me in the passenger seat. I just turn a blind eye to anything and everything else. But thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you. Look for me. I will have a pink tiara and a bright pink safety vest flying around the room. Please stop by and introduce yourself. And thank you so much. And everybody have a great evening.
Thank you, Nancy, and safe travels to you. And we look forward to seeing you at Rars Fest on April 6th. And good luck with it this year.
Thank you.
All right, 73. All right. Well, next on the agenda tonight is some overview of things going on in the division and in our 4 sections. But let's start off with our division director, Dr. Jim, and he wants to talk to you tonight about some changes that coming up in membership. So, Jim, it's you're up.
Sounds good. And I've got 2 very difficult acts to follow. First, I want to say that I am just extremely impressed and happy. People know that I'm a physician, but few probably know that I'm an OBGYN, and my entire life is around women. And to see 2 women in amateur radio that are just so impressive. I feel myself to be a champion of women, and I can't be happier. So, McKenzie, congratulations, and I look forward to meeting you. Nancy, it's good to see you on this, and we will see you at Rars Fest. And I do remember the last time we met, you had your tiara and a button that said "Mother of the Bride," and I said, "Your daughter's getting married," and says, "Why are you at a ham fest?" Says, "Well, she's really eloping." So that's
dedication.
That's dedication. Well, I just wanted to say a few things, and I'm going to promise not to go over this time because I want to make sure that all of our section managers are heard. There are 2 major membership things that came up in the January board meeting, the annual board meeting, and that is that the board authorized the CEO of the league to establish a reduced dues rate for full members who have not reached age 26, provided the rate shall be less than 50% of the rate established in the bylaw 4, which is the actual rate. So those under 26 will be able to get a substantially decrease in their dues. And another special thing was that if you are a full-time student and age less than 22, The CEO is authorized to give a membership discount as well, and that membership discount may be zero to be an associate member. And with the associate membership, the youth get all of the facilities of the league. They're able to go through the website, use all of the educational programs, and this is in a huge effort to be able to bring youth. And as I sound that youth is important, we all know youth is important, and I'm very happy that we have McKenzie to kind of represent our division in this manner. So, Bill, I'm going to go back to you and go back to the section managers.
Okay, thanks, Jim, and thanks for that update on the two changes regarding youth coming up with ARL. Yes, those both provisions were voted in by the board at the January meeting, and we hope that they will be available either late April or May. One of the delays in implementing free membership for full-time students ages 22 and younger has to do with, regrettably, minority-related issues. By minority, I mean less than ages 21, and ensuring that a parent or a guardian authorizes the approval for the young ham to join ARL. It's a different world in which we live, and it's something in which the ARL needs to make sure its T's are crossed and its I's are dotted when it comes to ensuring that youth are enrolled correctly with parental and guardian permission. And those issues are being ironed out before the new forms are being rolled out. So stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting when youth become involved. All right, enough from the division. Let's go do a round robin of the 4 sections and hear what's going on in those 4 states. And let's bring up from the Tar Heel State, North Carolina Section Manager Marv Hoffman, WA4NC. Marv, good evening to you at 3,800 feet above sea level, from me at 11 feet above sea level along the coast.
Well, I hope the sea level doesn't change very much down your way. And certainly the mountains will stay as they have for millions of years. I live in Boone, North Carolina, the home of Appalachian State University, and we certainly notice when the students are here and when they're not here. And increasingly, I would say some people would be happy if there were fewer students. Recently, though, let me say this about ham radio. Last night, I visited with the Mecklenburg Amateur Radio Society, and they were celebrating their 75th anniversary, which is quite an achievement. They had a good turnout of their membership and so on. And so congratulations to the Mecklenburg Amateur Radio Society. 75 years. I hope they have 75 more years there in the future. I heard from the officers that they were very happy with the Charlotte Ham Fest operation this year. As Bill and Jim and John know, because they were there and saw it themselves, it was a good crowd. The flea market was well populated. As far as coming by the ARRL table, I gave out 125 business cards. So we hope that that generates a lot more contact within the North Carolina section. Good news too, though, about the Charlotte Ham Fest was they made money. I won't say how much, but they were quite satisfied with the covering all their expenses and being able to set aside money for their various projects. So again, congratulations to the Mecklenburg Amateur Radio Society. Next, I'll mention, of course, as you mentioned already, next Saturday is the RARS Fest, the Raleigh Amateur Radio Society's Ham Fest. I first attended it 31 years ago and got my novice license at that time. And I've always had a warm spot in my heart for going to Mars Fest. We will, as the North Carolina section, be a donor of a door prize. We last year purchased two of the ARRL NFED amateur kits. One was given away last month as a door prize at Charlotte, and we will be giving to some lucky winner at Rars Fest another one of the ARRL antennas. Third topic, real quick, is the North Carolina General Assembly. The state legislature is in kind of, well, I won't say suspended animation, but they will come back on April 10th and continue doing their business as far as passing laws. So we will be monitoring closely what happens with either distracted driving or with the HOA antenna material. So that's the report from the high country. Back to you, Bill.
And thank you, Marv. We heard you loud and clear here in the low country. So I'm going to save, relative to some HOA type legislation, I'm going to save our South Carolina section manager for last, but because of some recent developments. No, that's okay, John. You're still there. We're going to bring you on in. But I would be remiss if we didn't go and travel to the Mountaineer State and hear from our esteemed section manager for West Virginia, Dan Ringer. Dan, what news do you bring us from Mountaineer country?
Well, as with every place else in the division, Hamfest season is sprouting, but it's really important to those of you out there who are planning a Hamfest to advertise it. You heard some discussion about that earlier, and that is absolutely true. And the best place to advertise it to the ham community is at arrl.org, the league webpage. They have an advertising section there, at least a listing for Hamfests and conventions. Put your Hamfest on there and do it as soon as you possibly can. As soon as you've got the date and the location set up for it, put it on the webpage so everybody can see it. And also make sure that your organization has a public information officer who will get news releases out. And you can include a photograph of last year's event if you want with those news releases, especially in some of the smaller counties. Those little weekly newspapers are hungry for things to publish, so they'll put in just about anything you send to them. Contact your local radio stations. My home club, the Monongalia Wireless Association, got a couple of really good radio interviews last year for Field Day. The Mountaineer Amateur Radio Club in Fairmont, West Virginia, got excellent interviews when a radio reporter showed up at their Field Day site and talked to about everybody who wasn't actually on the air, and they listened in to some of those contacts. So it's really important. The media wants to be relevant. They want to hear about you. They want to know what you're doing. So get out there and publicize what you're doing. You don't have to go hand out brochures, although that's really handy, and you don't have to have multi-hundred or multi-$1,000 brochure mailings. I hear a lot of complaints that that's just too expensive for some of these smaller clubs, but do what you can. Email works very, very well. We have an affiliated club coordinator here in West Virginia. Contact him. He's in my newsletter that I put out every month, his contact information. Contact him. Ask him to circulate your information to clubs. It's absolutely free to you. It doesn't take much effort at all, and it can be quite effective. Hams are always looking for a ham fest or a tailgate or a field day site. So let us know that it's out there. Just this evening, I looked at arrl.org to see what ham fests were in the West Virginia section. And that helps me plan my calendar to get around to go visit these also. And lastly, I was really impressed with McKenzie's presentation this evening. She is an excellent example of the kind of people we would like to have in amateur radio. certainly, but not everybody can be as accomplished as she is. She is absolutely amazing. But go to where the kids are. You want to recruit youth? Go where they are. You know, a lot of high schools have amateur radio clubs or would like to. Contact the science teacher or the principal at those schools and kind of invite yourself in to talk a little bit about amateur radio, maybe do a demonstration. Colleges and universities have students majoring in the STEM activities, particularly in engineering. Go visit some of them. If they have an amateur radio club, go and be a part of it and get your closest club or two to go in and work with them, to mentor them or to propose projects to them. They won't come to you. You have to come to them. If you want to get somebody involved, ask them. I saw a thing on the news this evening. Joe Lieberman just passed away today, but he was asked why he endorsed John McCain for president when he was a Democrat at the time. And he said, because John McCain asked me to. He said, none of the Democratic candidates asked me to do it, but McCain did. So he endorsed him. And that was a monumental thing in that presidential election. Ultimately, it didn't exactly work because McCain wasn't elected president, but Lieberman supported him because he was asked to support him. And the last issue is, what are you doing to promote amateur radio? You individually. You can say, well, I'm a member of my club, or I go to field day, or I work some contests, and that's not what I mean. I mean, are you willing to accept the responsibility to be your club's public information officer? Are you willing to accept the responsibility of putting together a committee, maybe within your club, to contact high schools, colleges, universities, to see what they're up to see if they would like to be involved with you? It takes a little time. That's absolutely true. But, you know, most people have a little extra time. And you could spend an hour a week or maybe a couple of hours a month. You could accomplish some great things, and you could promote amateur radio and make a difference. And with that, Bill, back to you.
Thank you very much, Dan. I just want to echo, too, as a former public information officer, PIO myself, in North Carolina, the landscape has changed tremendously with traditional media being defined as newspapers, broadcast radio, and broadcast television. But all three of those media channels continue to have somebody who has responsibility called the community editor, particularly at newspapers. And that's the person who decides what's get published, to say what's coming up in advance. And so a club should look at, for example, field day maybe 2 weeks before field day, so that the community editor, for example, field day this year is June 22nd and 23rd, back it up 2 weeks, and you've got approximately June 10th, 8th to 10th, somewhere in that time frame. Find out who the community editor is and let that person know about your field day. You might pick up some interested people you never knew about before. Dan, thank for those remarks. Let's go over to the Commonwealth of Virginia and hear from Jack. Jack, what's going on in the Old Dominion state?
Well, good evening, everyone. Well, first, I want to really thank McKenzie for accepting the position of youth coordinator for Virginia. We've greatly benefited from her, and just seeing the energy that she puts out there has really made things so much better for us. The upcoming, we have April 13th, Fall Fest 2, which is by the Greene County Amateur Radio Club, which is right here in my beautiful hometown of downtown Ruckersville. And that's, we have 5 traffic lights, so it shouldn't be too hard. But also, right after that, the 21st through the 27th is Volunteer Appreciation Week. So all of our volunteer groups that we work with, such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, Team Rubicon, etc., reach out to every one of those and let them know how much you appreciate what they do for their communities. And that helps, again, to reinforce our work with them as well. Going along with that, I've been invited to go over to Richmond to meet with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and the Virginia Volunteer Organizations Active in Disasters the week of the 10th. And during that, they're going to be producing some professionally produced advertisements for some of the different volunteer organizations, among them being the ARRL and ARES. So, and they're going to be, like I said, they're putting the bill for it. They're doing all the production work, and they're going to be doing all the distribution for us. So that kind of goes with what McKenzie was saying about getting the advertising out there. So really, really encouraged by that, and that we were selected as one of the few organizations that they're going to be doing that with. In August, we have the Roanoke Ham Fest, and the weekend of August 3rd, and the 4th is the state convention in Berryville. So please, if you can make that one, try to make that. And I guess that's pretty much the high points. I'm working on my section letter. That'll be going out soon. So no sense in beating people up with what I'm going to be sending out again here in just a few days. So thank you. And again, McKenzie, thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you, Jack, very much. And Jim and I recently drove through your lovely town of Ruckersville, and I'm pleased to say that we had a green light for all 5 green lights successively. So we just drove straight through town. And so last but not least, let's go to John. John, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and we try to hold these town halls to 1 hour. So I know you've got some big news coming out of Columbia, South Carolina. So John, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. And I wanted to express my congratulations to McKenzie as well. Just an amazing story with that young lady. She is definitely passionate and what we need in amateur radio to recruit youth. To talk about the HOA bill, first I want to say we had a very good rally at the Capitol the 27th of February. We had 45 hams or so appear at the Capitol, and were recognized by the Assembly for all the good we do in the state of South Carolina. Yesterday we had a hearing in the subcommittee for our bill, which is HR 4549, the Amateur Radio Antenna Protection Act. We have got a continuation on that. There was some clarification and amendments they would like on the bill before they'll let it out of committee. So we have proposed some amendments to that, and we're waiting to hear back for the next hearing. So we're not dead yet. We're still going forward. And if we don't get it this session, we'll certainly move forward to the next session and have lessons learned and have a better approach maybe for next year if we don't get it done this year. I want to remind everybody that we have an eclipse coming up. Even though our states are not in the path of totality, HAM-SCI is doing a get on the air QSO party for the eclipse. So get out there and get those antennas up, and make sure you wear your sunglasses. South Carolina has some upcoming Ham Fest. Let's see, who are those Ham Fest? Bear with me just a second here. I had my little prompt up and I lost it. There it is. First off, we have the Ridge Tailgate Club Party that'll be held April 6th, which is next Saturday. Thank you, Matthew Crook, at Sheely's Barbecue parking lot in Columbia. Columbia Avenue in Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina. If you want to reach out, you can reach out to www4 whiskey4rrc.org, and they have more information. And also in April, we have the 27th, we have the Columbia Amateur Radio Club holding their spring swap meet, and that'll be held at the Hayward Community Park in Gaston, South Carolina. And you can reach out to w4jlp@arl.net. That's Jim Latham. He's on the chat in here as well to get any details on that. And that Columbia Swap Fest, they usually hold it in the summer. They've moved it to the spring, and I think they're going to do one in the fall. So wonderful, wonderful stuff down there. I think this is the Ridge's first year doing this, so fantastic. Also, I want to reiterate Dan's points about volunteering in your club and promoting amateur radio as an individual. Those were all great points, Dan. Thank you so much. Also, the week of 424, we have an ARIS contact in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Pleasant Knoll Middle School will be doing a direct contact with the ISS. We don't have the exact date yet, but we're looking forward to that. And we have one other one in the state of South Carolina sometime in the fall for a school in Columbia. The name's escaping right now. So with that, I think I have covered everything I need to cover that was of utmost importance since we're up against the wall here.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And for those of you who are watching for the first time, these town halls, which are held quarterly, we try to hold them to exactly 1 hour. A lot of our members have said they have nets at 9 o'clock that they wish to be present for. So we'll be signing off soon. A couple of things, though. We, all of us who have made this here tonight, we owe a debt of gratitude to our producer, Brad Humphreys, AE4 VJ. Brad, you there? Who puts this all together and makes it look seamless for us. Thank you. Brad is the section technical coordinator for the South Carolina section and all-around good guy. He keeps us going. Tell your friends, if they couldn't join us live tonight, that this webcast tonight will be posted shortly on YouTube and will be available for replay. We'll be meeting again with another quarterly Roanoke Division Town Hall sometime probably in the month of June. Watch your email. We haven't determined an exact date yet, but we will have one. Well, Jim and I and Marv, Dan, John, Jack, we all thank you for joining tonight. Again, congratulations to McKenzie for being the new 2023 Roanoke Division Service Award winner. And many of you will see at RARS Fest. So until next time, a big 73 up, and it's time to go.
Thank you.